Diana, Princess of Wales, born Diana Frances Spencer on 1 July, 1961 at Park House, Sandringham, Norfolk. Diana was a member of the British royal family. She was the first wife of Charles III, then Prince of Wales, and mother of Princes William and Harry. Her activism and glamour, which made her an international icon, earned her enduring popularity. She was the fourth of 5 children of John Spencer, Viscount Althorp, and Frances Spencer, Viscountess Althorp. The Spencer family had been closely allied with the British royal family for several generations. Her grandmothers, Cynthia Spencer, Countess Spencer, and Ruth Roche, Baroness Fermoy, had served as ladies-in-waiting to Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Within the family, she was also known informally as Dutch, a reference to her duchess-like attitude in childhood. Diana grew up in Park House, situated on the Sandringham estate with her 3 siblings, Sarah, Jane, and Charles. The family leased the house from its owner, Queen Elizabeth II, whom Diana called Aunt Lilibet since childhood. The royal family frequently holidayed at the neighbouring Sandringham house, and Diana played with Princes Andrew and Edward. Diana was 7 years old when her parents divorced. Her mother later began a relationship with Peter Shand Kydd and married him in 1969. Diana lived with her mother in London during her parents' separation in 1967, but during that year's Christmas holidays, Lord Althorp refused to let his daughter return to London with Lady Althorp. Shortly afterwards, he won custody of Diana with support from his former mother-in-law, Lady Fermoy. In 1976, Lord Althorp married Rain, Countess of Dartmouth. Diana's relationship with her stepmother was particularly bad. Her childhood was very unhappy and very unstable. She became known as Lady Diana after her father later inherited the title of Earl Spencer in 1975, at which point her father moved the entire family from Park House to Althorp, the Spencer seat in Northamptonshire. Diana was initially homeschooled under the supervision of her governess, Gertrude Allen. She began her formal education at Silfield Private School in King's Lynn, Norfolk, and moved to Riddlesworth Hall School, an all-girls boarding school near Thetford, when she was 9. She joined her sisters at West Heath Girls' School in Sevenoaks, Kent, in 1973. She did not perform well academically, failing her O-levels twice. Her outstanding community spirit was recognized with an award from West Heath. She left West Heath when she was 16. She demonstrated musical ability as a skilled pianist. She also excelled in swimming and diving, and studied ballet and tap dance. In the mid-1970s, Diana did voluntary work at the psychiatric Darenth Park Hospital near Dartford, Kent. In 1978, Diana worked for 3 months as a nanny. After attending Institut Alpin Videmenet in 1978, Diana returned to London. She took an advanced cooking course and worked at a series of low-paying jobs. She worked as a dance instructor for youth until a skiing accident caused her to miss 3 months of work. She then found employment as a playgroup preschool assistant, did some cleaning work for her sister Sarah and several of her friends, and acted as a hostess at parties. She worked as a nursery teacher's assistant at the Young England School in Pimlico. In July 1979, her mother bought her a flat at Coleherne Court in Earl's Court as an 18th birthday present. She lived there with 3 flatmates until the 25th of February, 1981. In November 1977, Diana first met Charles, Prince of Wales, the Queen's eldest son and heir apparent, when she was 16. He was then 29 and dating her older sister, Sarah. Charles and Diana were guests at a country weekend during the summer of 1980, and he took a serious interest in her as a potential bride. The relationship progressed when he invited her aboard the Royal Yacht Britannia for a sailing weekend to Cowes. This was followed by an invitation to Balmoral Castle, the royal family's Scottish residence, to meet his family. She was well received by the Queen Mother and the Duke of Edinburgh. Charles subsequently courted Diana in London. He proposed on the 6th of February, 1981 at Windsor Castle, and she accepted, but their engagement was kept secret for 2.5 weeks. Their engagement became official on the 24th of February, 1981. Diana selected her own engagement ring. Following the engagement, she left her occupation as a nursery teacher's assistant and temporarily lived at the Queen Mother's residence, Clarence House. She subsequently resided at Buckingham Palace until the wedding. Diana's first public appearance with Charles was at a charity ball held at Goldsmiths Hall in March 1981, where she was introduced to Princess Grace of Monaco. At the age of 20, Diana became Princess of Wales upon marrying Charles, Prince of Wales on the 29th of July, 1981. The wedding was held at St. Paul's Cathedral. The service was widely described as a fairytale wedding and was watched by a global television audience of 750 million people, while 600,000 spectators lined the streets to catch a glimpse of the couple en route to the ceremony. At the altar, Diana inadvertently reversed the order of his first two names, saying Philip Charles Arthur George instead. She did not say she would obey him. That traditional vow was left out at the couple's request, which caused some comment at the time. Diana wore a dress valued at £9,000, equivalent to £43,573 in 2023. The dress was made of ivory silk taffeta, decorated with lace, hand embroidery, sequins, and 10,000 pearls. It was designed by Elizabeth and David Emanuel and had a 25-foot, 7.6 m, train of ivory taffeta and antique lace. The dress was designed according to Diana's wishes, who wanted it to have the longest train in the royal wedding history. The bride wore her family's heirloom tiara over an ivory silk tulle veil, and had her hair styled short crop down by hairdresser Kevin Shanley. She wore a pair of low-heeled Clive Shilton shoes with C and D initials hand-painted on her arches and decorated with 542 sequins and 132 pearls. Per the Queen's orders, two similar bouquets were prepared for the bride by David Longman, which contained gardenias, stephanotis, odontoglossum orchid, lily of the valley, Earl Mountbatten roses, freesia, veronica, ivy, myrtle and trasdiscantia. As a commander in the Royal Navy, Charles wore his ceremonial day dress uniform. He wore the Star and Riband of the Order of the Garter, the Star of the Order of the Thistle, the neck badge of the Order of the Bath, the Queen Elizabeth II Coronation Medal and Silver Jubilee Medal, and the royal cipher of the Prince of Wales in gold on epaulets on both shoulders. He carried a full-dress sword tasselled in gold. Within a few years of the wedding, the Queen extended Diana visible tokens of membership in the royal family, lending her the Queen Mary's Lover's Knot tiara and granting her the badge of the Royal Family Order of Elizabeth II. The couple had residences at Kensington Palace and Highgrove House, near Tetbury. On the 5th of November, 1981, Diana's first pregnancy was announced. On the 21st of June, 1982, she gave birth to the couple's first son, Prince William. She subsequently suffered from postpartum depression after her first pregnancy. A second son, Harry, was born on the 15th of September, 1984. Diana said she and Charles were closest during her pregnancy with Harry. She was aware their second child was a boy, but did not share the knowledge with anyone else, including Charles, who hoped for a girl. Diana gave her sons wider experiences than was usual for royal children. She rarely deferred to Charles or to the royal family, and was often intransigent when it came to the children. She chose their first given names, dismissed a royal family nanny and engaged one of her own choosing, selected their schools and clothing, planned their outings, and took them to school herself as often as her schedule permitted. She also organized her public duties around their timetables. Diana was reported to have described Harry as naughty, just like me, and William as my little wise old man whom she started to rely on as her confidant by his early teens. 5 years into the marriage, the couple's incompatibility and age difference became visible and damaging. In 1986, Diana began a relationship with James Hewitt, the family's former riding instructor, and in the same year, Charles resumed his relationship with his former girlfriend Camilla Parker Bowles. By 1987, cracks in the marriage had become visible and the couple's unhappiness and cold attitude towards one another were being reported by the press. In 1989, Diana was at a birthday party for Parker Bowles' sister, Annabel Elliott, when she confronted Parker Bowles about her and Charles's extramarital affair. These affairs were later exposed in 1992 with the publication of Andrew Morton's book, Diana, Her True Story. The Queen and Prince Philip hosted a meeting between Charles and Diana and unsuccessfully tried to effect a reconciliation. Philip wrote to Diana and expressed his disappointment at the extramarital affairs of both her and Charles. He asked her to examine their behavior from the other's point of view. As Princess of Wales, she was expected to make regular public appearances at hospitals, schools, and other facilities, in the 20th century model of royal patronage. From the mid-1980s, she became increasingly associated with numerous charities. She carried out 191 official engagements in 1988 and 397 in 1991. Following her engagement to Charles, Diana made her first official public appearance in March 1981 in a charity event at Goldsmiths Hall. She attended the Trooping the Colour for the first time in June 1981, making her appearance on the balcony of Buckingham Palace afterwards. In October 1981, Charles and Diana visited Wales. She attended the state opening of Parliament for the first time on the 4th of November, 1981. Her first solo engagement was a visit to Regent Street on the 18th of November, 1981 to switch on the Christmas lights. Diana made her inaugural overseas tour in September 1982, to attend the funeral of Princess Grace of Monaco. Also in 1982, Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands created Diana a Grand Cross of the Order of the Crown. In 1983, Diana accompanied Charles and William on a tour of Australia and New Zealand. The tour was a success and the couple drew immense crowds, though the press focused more on Diana rather than Charles, coining the term Dianamania as a reference to people's obsession with her. While sitting in a car with Charles near the Sydney Opera House, Diana burst into tears for a few minutes, which their office stated was due to jet lag and the heat. In New Zealand, the couple met with representatives of the Maori people. Their visit to Canada in June and July 1983 included a trip to Edmonton to open the 1983 Summer Anniversariade and a stop in Newfoundland to commemorate the 400th anniversary of that island's acquisition by the Crown. In 1983, she was targeted by the Scottish National Liberation Army who tried to deliver a letter bomb to her. In February 1984, Diana was the patron of London City Ballet when she travelled to Norway on her own to attend a performance organised by the company. In April 1985, Charles and Diana visited Italy, and were later joined by their sons. They met with President Alessandro Pertini. Their visit to the Holy See included a private audience with Pope John Paul II. In autumn 1985, they returned to Australia, and their tour was well received by the public and the media, who referred to Diana as Diamond Princess and the jewel in the crown. In November 1985, the couple visited the United States, meeting Ronald and Nancy Reagan at the White House. Diana had a busy year in 1986 as she and Charles toured Japan, Spain, and Canada. In Canada, they visited Expo 86, where Diana fainted in the California Pavilion. In November 1986, she went on a 6-day tour to Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia, where she met King Fahd of Saudi Arabia and Sultan Qaboos of Oman. In 1987, Diana was awarded the Honorary Freedom of the City of London, the highest honour which is in the power of the City of London to bestow on someone. In 1988, Charles and Diana visited Thailand and toured Australia for the bicentenary celebrations. In February 1989, she spent a few days in New York as a solo visit, mainly to promote the works of the Welsh National Opera, of which she was a patron. During a tour of Harlem Hospital Centre, she spontaneously hugged a 7-year-old child with AIDS. In March 1989, she had her second trip to the Arab states of the Persian Gulf, in which she visited Kuwait and the UAE. In March 1990, Diana and Charles toured Nigeria and Cameroon. The president of Cameroon hosted an official dinner to welcome them in Yaoundé. Highlights of the tour included visits by Diana to hospitals and projects focusing on women's development. In May 1990, they visited Hungary for 4 days. In November 1990, she and Charles went to Japan to attend the enthronement of Emperor Akihito. In her desire to play an encouraging role during the Gulf War, Diana visited Germany in December 1990 to meet with the families of soldiers. In September 1991, Diana visited Pakistan on a solo trip. Despite the protocol problems of traveling to a Muslim country, she made it in order to visit a rehabilitation center in Lahore as a sign of her commitment to working against drug abuse. She went to Brazil with Charles. During the Brazilian tour, Diana paid visits to organizations that battled homelessness among street children. Her final trips with Charles were to India and South Korea in 1992. She visited Mother Teresa's hospice in Kolkata, India. It was also during the Indian tour that pictures of Diana alone in front of the Taj Mahal made headlines. In May 1992, she went on a solo tour of Egypt, visiting the Giza Pyramid Complex and attending a meeting with Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak. In November 1992, she went on an official solo trip to France and had an audience with President François Mitterrand. During 1992 and 1993, leaked tapes of telephone conversations reflected negatively on both Charles and Diana. Tape recordings of Diana and James Gilby were made public in August 1992, and transcripts were published the same month in what became known as Squidgegate. In December 1992, Prime Minister John Major announced the couple's amicable separation to the House of Commons. Although she blamed Parker Bowles for her marital troubles, Diana began to believe her husband had been involved in other affairs. Charles sought public understanding via a televised interview with Jonathan Dimbleby on 29 June, 1994. In the interview, he said he had rekindled his relationship with Parker Bowles in 1986 only after his marriage to Diana had irretrievably broken down. In the same year, the News of the World claimed that Diana had had an affair with the married art dealer Oliver Hoare. However, Diana denied any romantic relationship with Hoare, whom she described as a friend. She was also linked by the press to the rugby union player Will Carlin and private equity investor Theodore J. Forstmann, yet these claims were neither confirmed nor proven. The journalist Martin Bashir interviewed Diana for the BBC current affairs show Panorama. The interview was broadcast on 20 November, 1995. Diana discussed her own and her husband's extramarital affairs. Referring to Charles's relationship with Parker Bowles, she said, "Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage. So it was a bit crowded." She also expressed doubt about her husband's suitability for kingship. In March 1993, she went on her first solo trip after her separation from Charles, visiting a leprosy hospital in Nepal where she met and came into contact with some patients, marking the first time they had ever been touched by a dignitary who had come to visit. In December 1993, she announced that she would withdraw from public life, but in November 1994 she said she wished to make a partial return. In her capacity as the Vice President of British Red Cross, she was interested in playing an important role for its 125th anniversary celebrations. Later, the Queen formally invited her to attend the anniversary celebrations of D-Day. In February 1995, Diana visited Japan. She paid a formal visit to Emperor Akihito and Empress Michiko, and visited the National Children's Hospital in Tokyo. In June 1995, Diana went to the Venice Biennale Art Festival, and also visited Moscow where she received the International Leonardo Prize. She visited many other countries, including Belgium, Switzerland, and Zimbabwe, alongside numerous others. During her separation from Charles, which lasted for almost 4 years, Diana participated in major national occasions as a senior member of the royal family, notably including the commemorations of the 50th anniversaries of Victory in Europe Day and Victory over Japan Day in 1995. In June 1995, she traveled to Moscow. She paid a visit to a children's hospital she had previously supported when she provided them with medical equipment. In December 1995, Diana received the United Cerebral Palsy Humanitarian of the Year Award in New York City for her philanthropic efforts. In October 1996, for her works on the elderly, she was awarded a gold medal at a healthcare conference organized by the Pio Manzu Center in Rimini, Italy. Princess Diana was a passionate advocate for various charitable causes, supporting over 100 organizations during her lifetime. Princess Diana became patron of the leprosy mission in 1990, visiting patients in India, Nepal, and Zimbabwe, and helping to dispel myths about the disease. She supported the Royal Marston NHS Foundation Trust, opening the Wolfson Children's Cancer Unit and representing the hospital in fundraising events. Diana openly discussed her struggles with postnatal depression and bulimia. Helping to reduce stigma around mental health issues, as patron of Centrepoint, she supported homeless children and youth, providing housing, food, and employment assistance. On the 20th of December, 1995, Buckingham Palace announced that the Queen had sent letters to Charles and Diana, advising them to divorce. The Queen's move was backed by Prime Minister John Major and by senior Privy Councillors, and, according to the BBC, was decided after 2 weeks of talks. Charles formally agreed to the divorce in a written statement soon after. In February 1996, Diana announced her agreement after negotiations with Charles and representatives of the Queen, irritating Buckingham Palace by issuing her own announcement of the divorce agreement and its terms. In July 1996, the couple agreed on the terms of their divorce. The decree nisi was granted on 15 July, 1996 and the divorce was finalized on 28 August, 1996. Diana was represented by Anthony Julius in the case. The couple shared custody of their children. She received a lump sum settlement of £17 million, equivalent to £40 million in 2023, as well as £400,000 per year. The couple signed a confidentiality agreement that prohibited them from discussing the details of the divorce or of their married life. Days before, letters patent were issued with general rules to regulate royal titles after divorce. Diana lost the style Her Royal Highness and instead was styled Diana, Princess of Wales. As the mother of the prince expected to one day ascend to the throne, she was still considered to be a member of the royal family and was accorded the same precedence she enjoyed during her marriage. The Queen reportedly wanted to let Diana continue to use the style of Royal Highness after her divorce, but Charles had insisted on removing it. After her divorce, Diana retained the double apartment on the north side of Kensington Palace that she had shared with Charles since the first year of their marriage. The apartment remained her home until her death. She also moved her offices to Kensington Palace but was permitted to use the state apartments at St. James's Palace. Diana was also given an allowance to run her private office, which was responsible for her charity work and royal duties, but from September 1996 onwards she was required to pay her bills and any expenditure incurred by her or on her behalf. The day after her divorce, she announced her resignation from over 100 charities and retained patronages of only 6: Centrepoint, English National Ballet, Great Ormond Street Hospital, the Leprosy Mission, National AIDS Trust, and the Royal Marsden Hospital. She continued her work with the British Red Cross anti-personnel Landmines campaign, but was no longer listed as patron. Diana continued to have access to the jewellery that she had received during her marriage, and was allowed to use the air transport of the British royal family and government. Diana was also offered security by Metropolitan Police's Royalty Protection Group, which she benefited from while travelling with her sons, but had refused it in the final years of her life, in an attempt to distance herself from the royal family. She dated the British Pakistani heart surgeon Hasnat Khan, who was called the love of her life by many of her closest friends after her death, and she is said to have described him as Mr. Wonderful. In May 1996, Diana visited Lahore upon invitation of Imran Khan, a relative of Hasnat Khan, and visited the latter's family in secret. Visit was intensely private and the relationship was conducted in secrecy, with Diana lying to members of the press who questioned her about it. Their relationship lasted almost 2 years with differing accounts of who ended it. She is said to have spoken of her distress when he ended their relationship. By the time of Diana's death in 1997, she had not spoken to her mother in 4 months. By contrast, her relationship with her estranged stepmother had reportedly improved. Within a month, Diana began a relationship with Dodi Fade, the son of her summer host, Mohammed Al-Fayed. That summer, Diana had considered taking her sons on a holiday to the Hamptons on Long Island, New York, but security officials had prevented it. After deciding against a trip to Thailand, she accepted Fade's invitation to join his family in the south of France, where his compound and large security detail would not cause concern to the Royal Protection Squad. Mohammed Al-Fayed bought the Jonikal, a 60-metre multi-million-pound yacht on which to entertain Diana and her sons. Princess Diana's visit to Angola in 1997 brought attention to the issue of landmines. Her work with the Halo Trust contributed to the International Anti-Personnel Mine Ban Treaty, signed in December 1997. In June 1997, and at the suggestion of her son William, some of her dresses and suits were sold at Christie's auction houses in London and New York, and the proceeds that were earned from these events were donated to charities. Her final official engagement was a visit to Northwick Park Hospital, London, on the 21st of July, 1997. She raised awareness about the disease, dispelling myths and stigma by shaking hands with patients and visiting hospitals. Her efforts helped increase understanding and empathy towards those affected. Her 36th and final birthday celebration was held at Tate Gallery, which was also a commemorative event for the gallery's 100th anniversary. She was scheduled to attend a fundraiser at the Osteopathic Center for Children on the 4th of September, 1997. Upon her return from Paris, Diana died on the 31st of August, 1997 due to injuries resulting from a car crash in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel in Paris while her driver was fleeing the paparazzi. Diana was taken to Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital around 2 a.m. and was pronounced dead around 4 a.m. The crash also resulted in the deaths of her companion Dodi Fade and their driver, Henri Paul, who was also the acting security manager of Hotel Ritz Paris. Trevor Rees-Jones, who was employed as a bodyguard by Dodi's father, survived the crash, suffering a serious head injury. The televised funeral, on the 6th of September, was watched by a British television audience that peaked at 32.1 million, which was one of the United Kingdom's highest viewing figures ever, and a United States television audience that peaked at 50 million. The event was broadcast to over 200 countries and was seen by an estimated 2.5 billion people. The sudden and unexpected death of an extraordinarily popular royal figure brought statements from senior figures worldwide and many tributes by members of the public. People left flowers, candles, cards, and personal messages outside Kensington Palace for many months. Diana's coffin, draped with the royal flag, was brought to London from Paris by Charles and her two sisters on the 31st of August, 1997. The coffin was taken to a private mortuary and then placed in the Chapel Royal, St James's Palace. On the 5th of September, Queen Elizabeth II paid tribute to Diana in a live television broadcast. The funeral took place in Westminster Abbey on the 6th of September. Her sons walked in the funeral procession behind her coffin, along with the Prince of Wales, the Duke of Edinburgh, Diana's brother Lord Spencer, and representatives of some of her charities. The burial took place privately later the same day. Diana's former husband, sons, mother, siblings, a close friend, and a clergyman were present. Diana's body was clothed in a black long-sleeved dress designed by Catherine Walker, which she had chosen some weeks before. A set of rosary beads that she had received from Mother Teresa was placed in her hands. Diana's grave is on an island within the grounds of Althorpe Park, the Spencer family home for centuries. The burial party was provided by the 2nd Battalion, the Princess of Wales's Royal Regiment, who carried Diana's coffin across to the island and laid her to rest. Diana was the regiment's colonel-in-chief from 1992 to 1996. The original plan was for Diana to be buried in the Spencer family vault at the local church in nearby Great Brington, but Lord Spencer said he was concerned about public safety and security and the onslaught of visitors that might overwhelm Great Brington. He decided Diana would be buried where her grave could be easily cared for and visited in privacy by William, Harry, and other relatives. The initial French judicial investigation concluded that the crash was caused by Paul's intoxication, reckless driving, speeding, and effects of prescription drugs. In February 1998, Mohammed Al-Fayed, father of Dodi Fade, publicly said the crash, which killed his son, had been planned, and accused MI6 and the Duke of Edinburgh. An inquest, which started in London in 2004 and continued in 2007 and 2008, attributed the crash to grossly negligent driving by Paul and to the pursuing paparazzi, who forced Paul to speed into the tunnel. On the 7th of April, 2008, the jury returned a verdict of unlawful killing. On the day after the final verdict of the inquest, Al-Fayed announced that he would end his 10-year campaign to establish that the tragedy was murder. He said he did so for the sake of Diana's children. Following her death, Diana left a £21 million estate, netting £17 million after estate taxes, which were left in the hands of trustees, her mother, and her sister Sarah. The will was signed in June 1993, but Diana had it modified in February 1996 to remove the name of her personal secretary from the list of trustees and have Sarah replace him. After applying personal and inheritance taxes, a net estate of £12.9 million was left to be distributed among the beneficiaries. Her two sons subsequently inherited the majority of her estate. Each of them was left with £6.5 million, which was invested and gathered substantial interest, and an estimated £10 million was given to each son upon turning 30 years old in 2012 and 2014 respectively. Many of Diana's possessions were initially left in the care of her brother, who put them on show in Althorpe twice a year until they were returned to Diana's sons. They were also put on display in American museums and as of 2011 raised $2 million for charities. Among the objects were her dresses and suits along with numerous family paintings and jewels. Diana's engagement ring and her yellow gold watch were given to William and Harry, respectively. William later passed the ring to his wife, Catherine Middleton. Her wedding dress was also given to her sons. In addition to her will, Diana had also written a letter of wishes in which she had asked for 3/4 of her personal property to be given to her sons, and dividing the remaining quarter, aside from the jewelry, among her 17 godchildren. Despite Diana's wishes, the executors, her mother and sister, petitioned the probate court for a variance of the will, and the letter of wishes was ignored because it did not contain certain language required by British law. Eventually, one item from Diana's estate was given to each of her godchildren, while they would have received £100,000 each if a quarter of her estate had been divided between them. The variance also delayed the distribution of her estate to her sons until they reached age 30. Diana also left her butler Paul Burrell around £50,000 in cash.